When that familiar chime echoed in his mind, Leo knew he had been reborn. A voice offered a choice of survival systems. Option A, the infinite replication system, or Option B, the energy plunder system. In his past life, Leo had rushed to choose replication, turning one bottle of water into 100. Meanwhile, his brother, Marcus, was stuck with plunder, forced to drain energy from living beings just to survive. That acid rain apocalypse lasted for years, with Leo acting as the savior of their building. But in the end, Marcus's schemes led to Leo being betrayed and shoved into a pool of corrosive rain. As the choice appeared again, Leo's pupils contracted. He realized Marcus had also been reborn. His brother intentionally snatched the replication system this time, thinking it was the superior path. Marcus told him he could have the plunder system, acting as if he were doing Leo a favor. Leo simply shrugged, pretending to accept their fate, while Marcus barely hid his ecstatic joy. Marcus believed replication was a miracle, unaware of its fatal flaw. Every replicated item disappears the moment the host dies. In his previous life, Leo only realized this was why his brother killed him at the very end. The true power of the plunder system, however, is the ability to steal energy from other systems. Leo watched his brother excitedly turn one pen into 100, a faint, cold smile touching his lips. This time, he would let Marcus watch his so-called miracle crumble. With 7 days until the acid rain, Leo offered no warnings, keeping the coming disaster entirely to himself. He spent his nights on the dark web, using his savings to buy materials for the plunder system's true purpose. It was a secret he had only unlocked in the final moments of his previous life. He could plunder not just life, but concepts themselves, provided he had enough energy. While Leo targeted an underground laboratory for power, Marcus was busy showing off for his crush. In a crowded cafe, Marcus turned a cup of water into a cascading waterfall, drawing gasps from everyone. He claimed it wasn't a magic trick, but a superpower that would save them from the coming rain. Watching through a security feed, Leo shook his head. He knew the look in that woman's eyes all too well. It wasn't love he saw there, but the predatory excitement of someone who had found their next meal. He shut off the monitor and moved the last of the materials into his basement, now a sealed ecopod. The plunder system required a sacrifice for its first activation, and he had stolen the perfect specimen from the lab. The specimen cells could survive in high-strength acid, providing the exact resistance Leo needed. As he began the process, he felt the system start to work its dark magic. A transparent film began to ripple across his skin, granting him the immunity he sought. Meanwhile, Marcus was busy winning over his girlfriend's parents with high-end imported food and replicated gifts. The father asked if he could replicate gold, and Marcus confidently claimed it was possible. The man gestured for his daughter, Sophie, to open the family safe, his greed clearly getting the better of him. Leo listened to the exchange through a hacked security system while monitoring the atmosphere. Sulfur levels were spiking 12 hours earlier than in his previous life, a side effect of his rebirth, perhaps. He quickened his pace, moving the final crates into the pod, but he wasn't stockpiling food. He was gathering information, specifically hard drives filled with research on global mutations. In his past life, this data wasn't found until months into the apocalypse. As Leo performed a final check on the pod seals, his phone rang. It was Marcus calling. Marcus asked to borrow money to buy Sophie a designer bag for her birthday. It was a request Leo had heard once before, in a life that felt like a very distant dream. We return to that phone call, where in his past life, Leo had given all his equipment money to Marcus, only for it to be spent on a designer bag for Sophie that dissolved on the very first day of the rain. After that, Leo checked the security feed to see Marcus cursing at his phone, then calmly stepped into his EcoPod's medical bay, with only 6 hours left until the world changed forever. This time, he intended to watch those who betrayed him suffer the consequences of their own choices as the acid rain arrived earlier than expected, a pungent, green, highly corrosive liquid. From inside his pod, Leo watched the monitors as the neighborhood descended into chaos, people screaming and running while Sophie's reinforced windows barely held back the melting world outside. Marcus tried frantically to replicate fresh water to wash away the acid, but the new water turned into acid the moment it touched the air. He didn't realize that his system could only copy matter, not properties. The true horror of the rain lay in its mutated energy, something Marcus couldn't replicate. So Leo activated his plunder system to extract that power, a process as painful as molten iron in his veins. He gritted his teeth as his body developed a protective layer similar to a mutant rat's hide, and his retinas adapted to the green light. 3 days later, as the first wave subsided, he stepped out. His body had already adapted to the environment, and through the cameras, he saw Marcus desperately trying to please Sophie, whose attitude had shifted from distant goddess to a suspiciously tender lover. Leo knew that tenderness would only last 4 months, so he donned his protective gear and left the basement to find the neighborhood covered in corrosion and the first glowing mutant plants. In his previous life, the man who discovered these plants were edible became a powerful leader, and Leo intended to seize that advantage first by heading to an abandoned park to find a glowing chrysanthemum. By plundering the plant's energy, he gained night vision, a skill that seemed useless in the perpetual day of the acid rain, but would be vital during the coming Black Mist era. He ventured deeper until he heard a girl's scream and saw 3 men from the notorious Blade Gang cornering her. Leo didn't hesitate when he saw the specific tattoo on the girl's wrist. The thugs told him to get lost, claiming the prey was theirs, but Leo only smiled. He needed to test his system's combat potential, and a burst of eerie blue light erupted from his palm. He wasn't targeting the men, but plundering the very life force from their weapons, a forbidden technique, and within 10 seconds, the 2 who tried to flee were nothing more than husks on the ground. The girl, pale and trembling, tried to run, but Leo caught her by the throat and told her to tell her superiors at the Black Tower that this territory was now his, and any others would die. He let her go, watching her scramble into the woods. The feeling of plundering life was addictive, but he knew that relying too much on such shortcuts would eventually cost him his humanity. He gathered a silver-glowing herb and headed back, knowing Marcus's replication system was hitting a bottleneck, as creating matter required a massive amount of his own physical energy. 3 days of constant replication had left Marcus exhausted, yet Sophie's family only grew greedier, with her father complaining that the replicated stakes were a bit too tough for his liking. When Marcus pleaded that his energy hadn't recovered, the father insisted he hurry up, while Sophie put on a perfectly timed look of grievance that she shouldn't have to suffer like this. Marcus retreated to a guest room to swallow handfuls of vitamins, unaware that his system was fueled by his own cellular vitality and that every miracle he performed was rapidly aging him. We see Leo watching the monitors in silence, observing Marcus's haggard face and remembering how he himself was drained dry in his past life while foolishly believing his brother actually cared. He realizes now it was purely spite. He opens a public channel on his communicator, a survivor network from his previous life, and asks if anyone is there, claiming to know where clean water is. He asks for the Black Tower's recent movements, and after a brief silence, the contact asks if he's an evolver. Leo admits he is, learning the tower is recruiting those with systems. Their leader reportedly has a devourer-type system designed to hunt others, a detail Leo never heard of before. It seems his rebirth has caused more ripples than he initially imagined. In exchange for the water's location in the old city's tunnels, he learns the leader's name is Byron, a self-proclaimed system hunter who never appeared in the original timeline. Whether Byron is a new variable or a hidden mastermind, Leo decides to accelerate his plan to expose Sophie's family before Marcus is completely used up, using mutant plants to refine a toxin. This toxin causes replication systems to glitch. He smears it on a forged treasure map and leaks it through the black market to Sophie's father, marking a military warehouse as a supply cache. The warehouse supposedly contains acid-proof gear, and Sophie's father, greedy as ever, sneaks out at night without telling Marcus, unaware that Leo has already set an ambush inside. The father creeps into the warehouse only to be surrounded by a Black Tower squad. Their leader asks what he's doing there so late, claiming they are there to help him. They demand information on his replication system, and the terrified man immediately offers up his son-in-law to save his own skin. Meanwhile, Leo records every word from the shadows. He doesn't want the father's life, but rather the evidence of the family's betrayal. As the squad drags the man back to the apartments, Leo moves ahead to plant listening devices. Marcus is jolted awake by the cold barrel of a gun and told he's coming with them to meet Lord Byron. The man he tried so hard to please is now bowing to the enemy. Sophie screams and hides in the bedroom while Marcus is dragged out like a stray dog, pleading for her to save him. Leo watches the feed with a chillingly calm expression. This is only the beginning, as he knows the Black Tower will squeeze every drop of value from Marcus. He plans to wait for the perfect moment to reveal who the true savior is. Marcus is locked in a basement and forced to replicate supplies daily. For every failed quota, he loses a finger, and 3 days later, Leo finally slips into the facility. His plunder system has evolved to grant him optical camouflage, and when he finds Marcus, his brother is barely clinging to life, whispering a desperate hope that Leo has come to save him. Leo doesn't answer, first draining the life force of the guards before injecting Marcus with a stimulant. When Marcus cries that he knew Leo wouldn't hide, Leo tells him not to misunderstand. He is only saving him because he is still useful. They fight their way out, with Leo plundering the energy of a dozen Black Tower members along the way until Marcus asks what his system is. Leo tells him it's a system that takes everything from people like him. They escape the chemical plant to a secret bunker, where Marcus asks when his brother became so cold and powerful. Leo cuts off his apology, stating he isn't there for regrets. If Marcus wants to live, he must do exactly as told and act as the bait to use up his remaining value. We see Leo watching the screen as Sophie applies her makeup with practiced ease, looking perfectly innocent despite her betrayal. A dark fire finally ignites in his eyes as Marcus pretends to escape the Black Tower, returning with the golden sphere. "Marcus, you've suffered so much. It's all my parents' fault," she cries, and he replies that she is the only one he trusts. Little do they know, Leo is in the shadows, monitoring the signal and tracking its source. Sophie has no idea that every call she makes sends a report directly to Byron. It turns out her family joined the Black Tower long ago. The situation is far more complex than in his past life, and Leo frowns, realizing he must cut their information network. Leo hacks into Sophie's communicator to plant a virus, then tells Marcus to take the family to the West City warehouse in 3 days. Marcus asks what is there, adding, "Brother, if I was wrong before, can you ever forgive me?" "The trap is your initiation, and this is your atonement," Leo replies coldly. 3 days later, the family of 3 follows Marcus into the warehouse, and the moment they step inside, Leo detonates the pre-planted EMP. Amidst Sophie's piercing screams, Leo emerges from the shadows, his plunder system already locked onto her father. A ghostly blue light envelopes the man as Leo begins to forcibly extract his memories. Leo sees the internal structure of the Black Tower, Byron's true identity, and a staggering secret. Byron is also a regressor, and he arrived even earlier. Byron's real name was Silas, a man from his previous life. Silas was the first to discover the truth, that all systems originated from the same meteorite core, which holds the power to restart the world. He wants to become the only god, while Marcus watches his unconscious in-laws with a heavy heart. In his past life, Marcus betrayed his brother to protect these very people, and now he asks, "Brother, what do we do?" Leo considers Silas's goals, which are clearly far from simple. He suspects Silas wants more than just systems. He remembers the Great Purge after the Acid Rains, when the new Federation hunted down all hosts. Silas intends to collect every system to complete a dark ritual. Leo doesn't know what the ritual is, but he knows it must be stopped, and Marcus's replication system is the key. Silas's Devourer ability can consume everything, but it cannot replicate the act of replication itself. "So I'm a threat to him?" Marcus asks, and Leo notes that is exactly why Silas wants him dead. Leo devises a daring plan to use Marcus as bait to lure Silas out, then use his own plunder ability. If the two opposing powers collide, it will create a brief system vacuum, the only chance to kill Silas. The success rate is less than 10%, Leo warns. "You can refuse if you want." Marcus finally understands that his brother has seen through the depths of human greed. "I'll do it," he says. "This time, I'm on your side." Leo nods and reaches out, and for the first time, the two brothers shake hands. This is their first true cooperation since the rebirth. Leo takes Marcus back to his base to prepare, knowing his plunder system has a hidden function that can bestow stolen attributes onto others. He grants Marcus a regeneration buff to buy him a few seconds of survival time. Marcus asks why he's helping, and Leo simply repeats that he is still useful, though Marcus suspects there is more to it. "You could have let the tower drain me dry," Marcus says. Leo admits the hatred is still there, but he is tired. He doesn't want to be a lone wolf anymore after dying at the hands of those he protected in his last life. He chooses to trust one more time, even if it might be a mistake. Marcus's eyes well with tears, but Leo has already turned back to his work. 3 days later, the trap is set. The news is leaked, and a massive Black Tower force surrounds the hospital, a blatant provocation that Silas cannot ignore. Sure enough, the enemy troops arrive in force, and Silas steps forward to confront Marcus. "Where is your brother?" Silas demands. "I have no interest in you. I want his plunder system." Marcus lies, claiming Leo is dead and that he is the one who replicated all these supplies. "Spread out," Silas commands, his voice cold as he claims he can smell the system nearby. He raises a hand, and a black vortex of his Devourer system forms in his palm, causing the surrounding mutated plants to wither instantly. Even the nearby buildings begin to crumble under the pressure, and Leo knows he can't wait any longer. He drops from above, his plunder system running at full power, but his target isn't Silas, it's the very ground beneath his feet. By plundering the concept of stability from the earth, he causes Silas to lose his footing as the ground softens. Taking advantage of the momentary chaos, Marcus hurls a massive amount of replicated explosives into the Black Tower crowd. As the brothers retreat toward their planned escape route, Silas roars for his men to bring them back alive. Inside a derelict subway tunnel, the two run for their lives, pursued by a Devourer system that is literally swallowing the light and sound around them. Leo uses his plunder system to strip the sturdiness from the tunnel walls, triggering strategic cave-ins to block their pursuers. They reach a dead end, but Leo remains calm. He chose this spot specifically to limit the range of Silas's Devourer ability. "Clever use of the terrain," Silas remarks as he emerges, "but you forgot one thing. I've also devoured speed." Before Leo can react, a heavy blow to the stomach sends him crashing into the tunnel wall, gasping for air. Silas presses a palm against Leo's chest, and the Devourer system begins its work. He laughs, calling the plunder system delicious, as he realizes Leo is also a regressor who has seen fragments of a past life. "You thought you were the only one," Silas sneers, just as Marcus lunges from the shadows with a replicated dagger. Silas dismisses the attack as foolish, claiming a replication system is useless against him, but he is mistaken. The dagger wasn't meant to cut. It was a distraction while Leo plundered the concept of defense from Silas himself. Now Leo focuses every ounce of his power on the system core vibrating within Silas's chest. The two opposing forces collide in midair, causing the tunnel to groan and collapse. In the clash between plunder and devour, Leo catches a glimpse of Silas's memories and realizes this isn't just his second life. Silas has lived through a dozen cycles of rebirth, searching for a way out. I've seen enough to know the only way is to break the cycle, Silas shouts. But Leo counters that his path of destruction isn't an exit at all. Silas screams that Leo doesn't understand the pain of watching humanity repeat the same mistakes of greed and betrayal over and over. He believes only total control can end the loop, leaving Leo stunned by the depth of his enemy's despair. He had assumed Silas was merely an ambitious tyrant, but in reality, he is a prisoner of time who has lost all hope. As the tunnel collapse intensifies, Marcus pulls on his brother's arm, shouting that they have to leave before they're buried alive. Silas vanishes into the dust and smoke, his parting words echoing that he and Leo are more alike than they think. By the time the brothers escape, the entire hillside has caved in, leaving Leo severely injured and his system temporarily offline. I won't die, but I need at least a week to recover, Leo wheezes, realizing they have now become the hunted. Marcus suggests a hiding spot, an old basement belonging to Sophie's family that the Black Tower might overlook. Marcus is certain the family has already been taken by the tower, and the basement is stocked with enough replicated supplies to last them a week. It's a risky gamble, but at this point, they don't have many options left. As Marcus carries his brother, Leo watches him and realizes how much he has truly changed. The Marcus of his past life would never have humbled himself to carry a useless brother to safety. Perhaps this timeline really is different. The basement is more spacious than expected, but the replicated medicine Marcus brought is only basic grade. Leo looks toward a mutated potted plant in the corner, wondering if he can find a more creative solution. He reaches out, forcing his damaged plunder system to extract the raw life energy from the plant. A faint green light flows into his wounds, and slowly, the agonizing pain begins to recede into a dull ache. Your system can plunder anything with energy, even life itself, Marcus observes, his voice trailing off into a heavy silence. After a long moment, he looks at Leo and finally whispers the words he should have said long ago. Brother, I'm sorry. In my past life, I was a complete scoundrel, Marcus admits, not asking for forgiveness, but needing to know how his former self met his end. You died, Leo replies bluntly, abandoned by the family. He explains that Marcus froze to death on a road just as the acid rain was ending. I actually tried to save you then, Leo adds, but you pushed me into an acid pool first, fearing my revenge. Marcus claims it was all a misunderstanding, promising that if one of them must die this time, he will go first. Leo watches him in silence before choosing to trust him, telling him to rest for tomorrow's training. You're willing to teach me? Marcus asks, surprised. Leo clarifies it's a partnership. Combining replication to create energy and plunder to convert it is the only way to truly grow stronger together. Over the next week, we see the brothers undergo intense training within the basement. Leo discovers a strange synergy between their systems, realizing that together, they can do more than just manipulate concepts. Replication is usually temporary, while plunder is permanent. By combining them, they can anchor a temporary creation into a permanent reality. It's a thrilling discovery, but Silas and his tower won't give them much time. On the seventh night, the basement alarms blare as at least 20 people arrive, led by Sophie. She hasn't just been given a system. It seems a portion of her consciousness has been completely devoured by it. Come out, Leo, she calls. Lord Silas is giving you one last chance. Leo looks at his brother, and Marcus nods, handing him a modified replication gun. Just like we practiced, Leo says as the door opens. Marcus walks out alone, prompting Sophie to call it a wise choice, but he has other plans. He pulls the trigger, firing not a bullet, but the very concept of evolution that Leo had plundered earlier. What have I done? A tower member stammers as chaos erupts. Leo strikes from the shadows with his plunder system at full power, specifically targeting the controlled hosts to liberate their minds from Silas's grip. Suddenly, Silas's voice approaches through the gloom, prompting Leo to shout a warning. Marcus detonates all his replicated energy at once, creating a shockwave that causes Silas's devourer ability to momentarily stutter. In that split second, Leo plunders not an ability, but the connection itself. The Black Tower army collapses instantly as Silas stares at his hands in disbelief. He has lost all control over his subjects. The grand design Silas spent a dozen lifetimes building crumbles in an instant. You have no idea what you've done. Silas laughs maniacally, his eyes filled with a desperate, growing madness. Without control, there is only chaos. If it's freedom you want, then witness the price of it, he screams. He detonates his own system core, not to end his life, but to release a massive storm of devouring energy that surges in every direction. Leo grabs Marcus and retreats toward the deepest part of the basement as the black storm passes over them. Every system ability it touches is instantly sealed, and Leo can feel his own plunder system screaming in protest. They dive into a shelter Leo reinforced with plundered energy to block external interference. Outside, the storm rages for a full hour before finally subsiding into a heavy, unnatural silence. When Leo finally opens the hatch, we see that the world has been fundamentally altered. The acid rain clouds have been swept away, revealing the sun for the first time in years, but this is no happy ending. The energy Silas released has changed the very atmosphere. The rain has stopped, but the temperature is plummeting. Silas has accelerated the timeline, bringing about the Ice Age years earlier than in Leo's past life. In his previous life, the acid rain lasted 4 years before the freeze, but now the disasters are overlapping. Leo checks his status and realizes his system can no longer sense any ambient energy at all. Silas's final storm has drained the energy reserves of every system in the vicinity. They will need time to recover. How long? No one knows, as the two brothers face a world that has suddenly turned bone-chillingly cold. The brothers share a long look before turning toward the window, where the snow is falling harder by the second. Without their systems, they are just ordinary men facing an imminent ice age. Yet these days are unexpectedly peaceful. It turns out surviving as a normal person is quite difficult, Marcus remarks, realizing he never experienced this struggle in his past life. Back then, a simple wave of the hand provided food and warmth. Leo remains silent as they head toward the eastern mountains. They are seeking shelter at an official government base, not a private faction. In Leo's past life, this base existed but was swallowed by the tower after 3 months. Marcus asks if they should really go. We go, but not yet, Leo decides, knowing they need allies once their systems recover. Over the following days, they struggle to survive in the frozen wasteland, and we see Marcus learning how to hunt for their meals. While Marcus hunts, Leo studies how to survive without a system. He discovers that the evolution brought by the systems is permanent. It simply needs to be re-triggered. On the 30th day, the first major blizzard arrives. The oxygen system in their shelter malfunctions amidst the freezing winds. Marcus prepares to go out and fix it, but Leo stops him, calling him crazy for attempting it without a system. Someone has to do it, Marcus insists. Leo watches him, remembering the selfish brother from his past life. The change in Marcus is real. The blizzard rages for 7 days. On the 7th night, Leo feels something deep within his soul, finally waking up. Marcus, try to feel your system, Leo urges. Marcus closes his eyes in concentration, and a faint light flickers in his palm. The phantom image of a pencil appears, and then solidifies, a small victory in this desolate world. They have finally regained their leverage for survival. With their systems recovering, the brothers begin their journey toward the eastern base. The path is harder than imagined, so Leo uses his plunder system on mutated beasts. He extracts cold resistance attributes, granting them both temporary protection against the freeze. Leo, something's happening up ahead, Marcus says, pointing toward black smoke rising from a convoy of at least a dozen armored vehicles. The vehicles bear the mark of the tower, remnants of Silas's forces that have regrouped. The convoy spots them, and a lone snowmobile breaks away, driven by a rider in a white uniform who eventually removes their helmet. It is a face Leo never expected to see. Don't be nervous. I'm not here to fight, the rider says. Silas is dead, and the tower has split. Our faction wants to talk. To be honest, a peaceful chat is the last thing Leo expected. They want to discuss a partnership. Silas's final storm didn't just seal systems. It tore a hole in reality. Creatures that don't belong to this world have begun to appear, something Leo had already started to notice. Just yesterday, they encountered transparent ice worms with an energy signature the plunder system couldn't identify. These are fragments from other cycles. Silas's repeated attempts to restart the world have caused the timeline to tear. If the tiers aren't mended, every timeline will collapse, including this one. Take us to your leader, Leo says. When they arrive at the eastern mountains, the base has been transformed into a towering white fortress. A strange light swirls at the top of the white tower. Leo can feel a massive field generated by a mixture of multiple system energies. The leader of this white tower is an old man whose system allows him to read memories. He has preserved information from every previous cycle. Silas wasn't the first person to try and restart the world. Before him, there were hundreds of others who attempted the same feat and failed. They all failed because they were missing a crucial piece of the puzzle. When Leo asks what it is, the old man gives a simple answer: the twin systems, which, naturally, refers to the two brothers standing before him. Replication and plunder, creation and taking. These are the two original powers that split from the meteorite's core. Only by combining them can the timeline be stabilized rather than torn apart further. Leo recalls their earlier experiments where combining their powers anchored temporary matter into reality. If they can scale that up to the level of the timeline itself, they might just save everything. What do we need to do? Leo asks. What must we do? Leo asks. The old man explains they must enter the gate, find the source of the timeline tears, and mend it, though they risk being trapped forever. They could be lost in other cycles or vanish entirely. If they succeed, all timelines will merge, the world will stabilize, and they will lose their memories of rebirth. They would live as ordinary men, stripped of their systems and their past lives. To be honest, this was the peaceful ending they had both secretly craved for years. The gate lies 1,000 meters beneath the White Tower, a swirling vortex of light where countless versions of themselves cry out. Marcus must stabilize the exit with replication. Meanwhile, Leo's plunder system will clear the obstacles. Inside, they won't face enemies, but rather infinite possibilities. Marcus takes a deep breath and steps into the light first. Leo follows immediately, but they are instantly separated. Leo finds himself standing in a familiar place, watching Marcus choose his system. He tries to shout, but he is merely a ghost. This is a memory playback, not reality. We see the scenes fast forward. Leo protecting his brother, the betrayal, his death, and then the cycle of rebirth beginning all over again. He watches himself die repeatedly in a silent loop. He knows he must find the exit, and soon, a point of light appears, a glowing path leading him forward through the void. Passing through fragments of countless cycles, he sees versions of himself as a tyrant, or dying young, or somewhere he never even obtained a system. Every version feels real. Each version of Leo made different choices. The light grows blindingly bright, finally coalescing into a door. Marcus is standing behind it, looking pale and shaken. Leo, I saw every possibility, Marcus whispers. Leo tells him not to be deceived. They must remember the choices of this life, the choice to cooperate and to trust. That trust is their only reality now. At the core of the vortex, they find a massive whirlpool of system energy, and at its center floats a crystalline meteorite fragment. This is the original core, the source of every system. It is disintegrating, and each crack creates a new timeline branch. To mend it, they must pull the scattered energy back together. But how? The twin systems are the key. Replication creates the branches, while plunder pulls them back in. By running both simultaneously, they can finally close the loop. Standing at the edge of the vortex, they hold hands. Marcus activates replication, creating countless threads of energy that reach toward the crumbling crystal core. The two powers meet on the crystal's surface, creating a strange resonance. Leo, I remember everything now, Marcus says suddenly. In the past life, I didn't push you. He explains that something had been observing him, forcing his hand while he screamed internally. Images surface in the vortex, the past Marcus standing by the acid rain pool. His hand had moved against his will, his eyes flickering with a dark, alien light. Leo asks why he didn't say so sooner. My memories were locked, Marcus replies sadly. They are doing this for everyone who was ever manipulated. As their powers reach a perfect balance, the cracks begin to seal, but their systems are being absorbed as fuel. The systems are vanishing, and they both know it. It's the price we pay, Leo says, though he knows his plunder system has already fused with his very soul. The plunder system had already fused completely with Leo's body, becoming a part of his very soul. Brother, listen to me, Leo says. Once I finish stripping the energy, use your replication system to create a container. We can seal the energy inside to mend the core while keeping our powers. They would no longer be systems, but tools. Marcus nods through tears and replicates a precise crystal ball. As Leo completes the plunder, he feels something vital being torn away. He grows so weak he can barely stand, yet he successfully compresses the system energy into two glowing spheres and seals them within the crystal. Instantly, the cracks in the core begin to heal. As the core mends, the temporal vortex contracts, throwing the brothers back into the White Tower's basement. The Watcher catches them, whispering that they've done it. The timeline is finally stabilizing. Before Leo slips into unconsciousness, we see the crystal ball hovering in the air, rotating slowly as a new, stable core. It seems the nightmare is over, and he finally surrenders to the darkness. When Leo eventually wakes up, he sees spring outside his window. It isn't the false warmth of the Ice Age, but a genuine, living season. This world is the core's gift to them. Marcus asks if they can still use their powers, and the answer is yes, but it will require a great deal of learning. Marcus produces a textbook on energy manipulation written by the Watcher. They are controllers now, not hosts. Their abilities no longer run on autopilot, but require deep understanding and practice. It feels like a return to basics, yet it's different. The entity known as Silence has vanished, or rather, its consciousness has dispersed into the fragments of every cycle to become part of the timeline itself. Silence was an enemy, but also a warning. As for the others, Sophie has gone to serve as an advisor for the newly formed Federation, while the Watcher's journey has come to an end. The old man passed away, leaving a final message. He was grateful that, in the end, they chose to trust each other. Leo looks out at the ruins where people are already busy rebuilding. A world without systems feels more vibrant and alive. Marcus asks what they should do next, and Leo simply suggests cooking a good meal. He's been hungry for 3 months, after all. In the quiet glow of the hearth, they embrace true freedom. However, learning to control energy is harder than expected. It takes Leo a full week just to make the crystal produce enough heat to boil noodles. Marcus has it even worse. He tries to replicate a glass of water and ends up with a cloud of steam. It's far more troublesome than the system era, but infinitely safer. In their past lives, they never questioned where the energy came from. It was plundered from their own bodies, always carrying a hidden price that they can finally see and control. This new vision is a different kind of perception, like seeing the flow of the wind. The crystal ball acts as an amplifier, helping them guide these natural currents. 3 months pass. They eventually master the basics. Leo can draw heat from a flame to stay warm, while Marcus can replicate the growth rate of plants to garden. They settle in a small town and open a general store. On the surface, they sell everyday goods, but they secretly use their skills to solve problems, fixing old circuits, purifying water, or accelerating crops. They are like supernatural handymen. To the locals, they are just skilled technicians using new technology. This mundane life brings the brothers a peace they never knew in their past lives, far away from the chaos of the systems. The days of slaughter and betrayal feel like a lifetime ago, until one day, a stranger walks into the general store asking if they can solve special problems. Leo asks who he is, and the man reveals he's a former Black Tower member, but not an enemy. He isn't here for revenge, but to offer a warning. Someone is collecting remnants of the old systems to rebuild the core. Leo and Marcus exchange a look. They thought the war was over, but apparently, the world isn't ready for peace just yet. The stranger, who goes by the name Kevin, explains he was an experimental subject during the era of silence. His system ability was perception, the power to detect other systems, and though it's technically gone now, he's found a workaround. He's learned to simulate that power using technology, and he's discovered that someone is buying up meteorite fragments, not as collectibles, but in massive, organized quantities. He's been tracking them for 6 months and finally found the source. Behind it all is an organization called the New Era, whose goal is to restart the system age. They believe ordinary humans can't handle disasters and need gods to rule them, a philosophy that makes Marcus frown in disgust. It's a mindset similar to silence, but even more extreme. When asked why he sought them out, Kevin explains they have the crystal ball, the only complete system source left, and if the New Era gets their hands on it, things will get very ugly. They would be able to mass-produce new system hosts, creating a true divine autocracy. Leo looks at the crystal ball under the counter. 3 months of peace had almost made him forget just how dangerous this object really is. Marcus suggests destroying it to make systems vanish forever, but Kevin warns that the crystal is now the anchor for the timeline. If it's destroyed, the fragments of every cycle will explode outward, and the entire world will simply collapse. The only option is to move it, hide it where only they know, and then strike first to dismantle the New Era's plans. Leo agrees, and Kevin reveals he already knows the location of one of their strongholds. It's an underground lab in the old district. That night, Leo seals the crystal ball in a specialized lead box and buries it in the basement, setting up energy traps that will instantly freeze anyone who approaches without the right frequency. The three of them set out under the moonlight. Marcus asks if the world will truly be free of systems if they succeed, and Leo admits he isn't sure, wondering aloud if his brother will miss that kind of power. Marcus admits he might miss it sometimes, but mostly he's just grateful. He's glad they finally have the power to choose their own path, rather than being chosen by an ability. Soon, they reach the underground lab in the old district. This place was once a Black Tower research facility, now repurposed by the New Era. Using his residual shadow abilities, Leo leads them past the surveillance cameras toward the main lab, where they find something horrifying. They are conducting human experiments, trying to activate residual system genes. Peering through a grate, Leo sees dozens of incubation pods lined up, filled with humanoid figures, a sight that is nothing short of madness. Marcus asks if these people are still alive, and Kevin grimly confirms they are, though they'd likely prefer death. The system genes are incompatible with their bodies, leaving them in a state of constant, agonizing rejection. They decide to sabotage the power supply and evacuate without alerting the main force. Marcus volunteers, noting that his replication ability can create enough interference to give them a chance, even if it is incredibly dangerous. He wants to be the one to end this. Leo checks the map and tells them to meet at the exit in 10 minutes, regardless of success. Leo then slides down a ventilation duct and lands silently in the shadows of the lab. Taking a deep breath, he activates the crystal ball's replication function. Instantly, the system toxins within the laboratory begin to fluctuate wildly, throwing the entire facility's delicate balance into total chaos. Alarms blare, but the consoles report an energy leak rather than an intrusion. As the guards rush toward the control room, Leo seizes the chance to approach the main reactor core, which is powered by a small meteorite fragment. The fragment is fixed in the center of the reactor. As Leo reaches out to drain its energy using his plunder technique, a voice suddenly rings out. "I've been waiting for you, Replicator." It is the leader of the New Era. The leader reveals herself as Sophie, or at least one version of her. She explains that when the timelines merged, a few twins were created, and while her counterpart joined the Federation, she remained here. She claims to be the pragmatic side of the same soul, arguing that while the old silent system was wrong, ordinary people still need gods to guide them through her divine ascension plan. To her, sacrificing these innocent people is a necessary evil, much like Leo and Marcus sacrificed their powers to stabilize the world. Marcus, listening to this, feels a cold, sharp anger rising within him. However, he forces himself to stay calm, realizing he needs to buy time for Leo to get into position. He asks why she's telling him this, and she admits it's because they need him. The core crystal requires twin systems. Only then can it be fully activated. She offers them a place in her new utopia, suggesting Marcus could rule while she guides the people like a shepherd tending to a flock. Before she can finish her grand speech, Leo lunges from the shadows, his plunderer's blade aimed straight for her back. But the woman is prepared, vanishing in a flash and reappearing across the room. She tells Leo she has been waiting for him. Suddenly, her body begins to glow as system patterns surface beneath her skin. This isn't a remnant, but a fully active, living system she managed to preserve. When asked how she bypassed the timeline's erasure, she explains it's the privilege of being a twin. She and her counterpart share a soul, but not a destiny. Her other self lost the system, but hers remained. Every use of this power burns away her life force, but she doesn't seem to care. She gives them a final choice: join her or die here and let the core crystal fall into her hands. Marcus points out that her system is unstable and using it only hastens her death, meaning she'd never live to see her godhood. She simply smiles, saying she only needs to live long enough to find a successor. She believes the old system failed because it was lonely, but she has an organization and believers. Marcus scoffs, asking if the people in the incubation pods are believers or just her fuel. The woman hesitates for a split second, and in that moment, Marcus strikes. Enraged, she unleashes a massive energy storm toward him, but Leo steps in, activating his plunder system to its absolute limit. He redirects the storm's energy into the ground, causing the entire laboratory to begin collapsing. The incubation pods shatter, and the subjects inside spill onto the floor, their fates uncertain. Marcus tells Leo to take the survivors and run while he holds her off. Leo refuses to leave him, but Marcus insists this is his chance to protect his brother for once, detonating the replication energy within the crystal ball. The woman screams as she lunges forward, but Leo is forced to grab the nearest survivors and sprint for the exit. He looks back one last time to see his brother swallowed by a blinding explosion. Leo spends the next 3 days digging through the ruins. He finds several bodies, but none of them belong to Marcus. Most of the test subjects survived and wandered off, but Marcus and the woman have vanished. Kevin arrives and checks his sensors, noting that the core crystal's reaction is still present, though it's faint and very far away. It seems to be coming from deep underground. It could be an old subway tunnel or something even deeper. Without a moment's hesitation, Leo grabs his gear to head back down, telling Kevin to alert the Federation if he doesn't return within 3 days. The deeper he goes, the hotter the air becomes, not from geothermal heat, but from leaking system energy. Marcus's replication power and the woman's system are clashing beneath the earth. Finally, in a natural cavern, we see what has become of them. Marcus is pinned against a rock wall, the crystal ball hovering at his chest, its pulsing light barely maintaining his final heartbeats. The woman lies nearby, her body half-crystallized, the price of pushing her system too far. She gasps that Marcus is stubborn, choosing to turn himself into an anchor rather than let her have the crystal. Marcus whispers that he did it. Now, neither she nor the crystal can move. Leo begs him to stay quiet so he can carry him out, but Marcus knows the crystal is now fused to his very soul. If he were to be pulled away, the resulting energy would level the entire city. Leo finally understands. Marcus is using his own body as a living container to seal both the core and the woman's system. It is the only way to save everyone, but it's also a death sentence. Leo insists there must be another way, suggesting he could use his plunderer system to sever the connection, but Marcus stops him. He tells Leo that while he failed him in their past life, this time, he chooses to save him and everyone else. Suddenly, the cavern begins to tremble as the energy becomes dangerously unstable. The energy is about to release, and Marcus prepares to guide the blast deep underground. He thanks Leo for finally believing in him before a massive force shoves Leo out toward the surface. The last thing Leo sees is the depths of the earth swallowed by a silent, blinding light. On the surface, a massive crater forms, yet miraculously, no one is hurt. The energy was perfectly redirected. Leo kneels at the edge of the pit, clutching a single crystal shard, the only thing left after the core disintegrated. Inside, a faint silver glow flickers, carrying a final, lingering memory. As Leo touches the shard, we see that Marcus's final choice wasn't death, but dispersion. He copied his consciousness into countless fragments, weaving himself into the very fabric of the timeline. In every cycle and every possibility, Marcus will be there, watching over him. Leo grips the shard tightly, and for the first time in a long time, he finally lets his tears fall. 3 months later, the world has returned to a quiet peace. The laboratory is gone, the survivors have started new lives, and Leo has established a new regulatory system within the Federation. Leo eventually returns to their small town to reopen the old general store. In the basement, he's built a small shrine for the crystal shard, where he sits every evening to share the day's stories. He knows his brother is listening, in the rustle of the wind, the flicker of the light, and every moment of trust. One evening, a young man walks into the shop, looking exactly like Marcus. The stranger's eyes are unfamiliar as he asks if the shop sells special tools. Leo asks if he's there to fix something or to learn, and the boy replies that he wants to do both. The boy introduces himself as Silas, a name meaning of the forest, and mentions he feels he owes someone a thank you. Leo looks into his eyes and sees no trace of the system's cold glow. Leo smiles and tells him they'll start by learning to brew tea, noting that his own brother was a great teacher, even if he used too many leaves. Outside, the sunset paints the town in gold. Leo feels the shard in his pocket grow warm, like a distant, familiar embrace. At the intersection of countless timelines, they have both finally made the right choice. It wasn't about becoming gods or controlling fate, but about living as humans who believe in one another until the very end of time. And that, we think, is a much better story. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this journey, please consider liking and subscribing for more. We'll see you in the next one. If you would like to support our work, please consider leaving a tip for the channel. This has been a presentation of our storytelling series. Thank you for joining us on this journey, and we look forward to seeing you again very soon.